Welcome back. The Democratic primary in the race to replace Nebraska Republican Congressman Don Bacon is still too close to call. With 89% of the ballots counted, political organizer Denise Powell is leading State Senator John Kavanaugh, but not by much. One of them will face off against Brinker Harding, who ran unopposed for the Republican nomination. On the Senate side, CBS News projects incumbent Republican Pete Ricketts and Democrat Cindy Burbank overwhelmingly won their primary races. But Burbank has pledged to drop out of the general election and back Dan Osborne, who's been endorsed by the Nebraska Democratic Party. Osborne was not on Tuesday's primary ballot because he's running for the Senate as an independent. But the outcomes we see in this November's midterm elections could be impacted by the nationwide redistricting battles we've been reporting on for months. We're tracking a number of key developments there as well. Early this morning, a Louisiana Senate committee advanced this proposed congressional map. If approved, it would eliminate one of the state's 2 majority black districts. And in Alabama, Governor Kay Ivey set special primary elections for 4 House races affected by a new congressional map. Those will take place August 11th. Plus, as demonstrators protested against a new congressional map favoring Republicans, the Missouri Supreme Court upheld the redistricting plan in 2 unanimous decisions. But President Trump's push to redraw the nation's House district hit a snag over in South Carolina. 5 Republican state senators there joined all Democrats in rejecting a proposal to extend the current legislative session and take up redistricting. So what does all of this really mean? Here to dive further into this and explain it all is CBS News and Election Surveys Executive Director Anthony Salvanto. Anthony, good morning to you. I'm sure you were able to follow that pretty clearly.
Explain it all, but no pressure.
Yeah, no, but our viewers, we'll have to take a minute. Our own Ed O'Keefe asked President Trump about all this, the redistricting push. Let's just quickly hear what he had to say yesterday.
Question on redistricting. To voters who are confused about the changing maps, the changing dates, and to African Americans concerned that this is going to draw black members of Congress off the map, what do you say?
Well, I think it's been a wonderful process. The Democrats, they've redistricted for years, and now we took our shot, and it looks like we're going to pick up a lot of seats, and that's a good thing. We want voters to have their choice. We want fair voting. We want fair elections.
So there you have the president maintaining, hey, it's a fair fight. Democrats have done it. Now he's doing it with Republicans. But what does this mean for American elections?
So there's 2 parts to this. There's the political side and there's the representation side.
Okay.
Let me answer your question with the political side first. In an election year where we don't see a whole lot of competitive districts, yes, each district is going to matter. And when you look at the changes that have come about as a result of redistricting in some form, started with Texas, went to California. Right. You see a number of southern states now making these changes. All of that will likely net the Republicans out, just out of the redistricting fights, a few more seats, maybe as many as 9, maybe fewer, depending on what voters do. Okay. They're the determining factor here, as always. Now, having said that, that's the politics of this. Helps the Republicans maybe have a chance to hold the House a little more. The representation part of this, though, is a little bit different, and that is, what is it about the shape or the drawing of a district that gives voters the ability to elect somebody of their choice? Now, what we've seen after the Supreme Court ruling regarding the Voting Rights Act, that explains a lot of what you see now and what you saw in Ed's piece, which is to say some of these southern states are looking at drawing districts that were majority minority, which is to say that minority voters constituted a majority of the voters in those districts. Yes, they voted for Democrats. Yes, they have African-American representatives. And that now is the fight over whether or not those districts will then not just affect the midterms, but how that affects representation for black voters.
Because so many Americans feel passionate for or against this, could turnout scramble the board even more? You mentioned at the top, voters will ultimately decide who gets to be in the House of Representatives. Could this be scrambled?
Well, that speaks to a really important question, which is that all of this, when you see all these lines going back and forth, redistricting, drawing this here and there, is based on what people, pollsters, what data analysts, et cetera, believe voters are going to do. And that includes, to your question, whether or not they think voters actually vote. So in all of this, yes, you very well could see voters change their opinions about their parties, about their processes, and also maybe get more excited or more, enthusiastic about voting because all of this is in the news, because they might feel their representation is being challenged. And yes, that could affect all of this because these district lines ultimately are based on, as I said, what we kind of think voters will do.
Based on information looking backwards. So we
That's all
could
you've
see
got.
some surprises this November.
Absolutely.
Anthony Salvanto, great to have you break it down for us. Thank you.